Hello and welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Orlando Standard Open. I'm Glenn Jones. I'm here with Mark Nestico.
Hi.
Mark, everyone knows you as a little bit of a brewer around these parts.
A little bit.
You like to tweak, you like to tune, and you're here today with your own take on Prime Speaker Band.
Yes.
A deck we saw come to really fast success just a few short weeks ago, but it's since kind of been on the back burner ever since I think like the Star City in Indianapolis. I haven't really seen it much.
A couple weeks.
So your big change here, you've shifted around a little bit of the action in the main deck, leaning less on Big Garrick, and you've added clones and acidic slimes.
Yeah, the big change that we made to this deck was obviously what you said. It's clone and acidic slime, mostly because clone just functions as, in some matches, Thragtusks, Restoration Angels, Smiters, more Angels. It just gives you like an insane amount of versatility along with your Restoration Angel. Slime we added strictly because it aids in your Reanimator matchup, which got tough. We put in these two, and the matchup just started improving. You would just play one on turn 3 or 4, blow up one of their lands, and it's funny, like, their mana base isn't as good as you think it is until you start really blowing up their lands, and Restoration Angel with Slime, I mean, obviously it's insane.
Yeah. Casting an Angel of Serenity is definitely particularly difficult for a Reanimator deck, so you're kind of forcing them onto the Unburial Rights plan once you have Acidic Slime just in your deck.
Right.
At that point, that's the only way they can get it into play. And of course, like, you have a ton of mana acceleration yourself. The core of the deck is in fact the Pilgrims, Arbor Elves, and Farseeks, I think. And you ramp into your own Angel of Serenities to counter theirs.
It's our way of just kind of saying to them, we can play the same game that you do in terms of powerful cards. Even though we're doing it a little bit differently, it still gives us a huge edge, and especially like in mid-range matchups as well. Like if you stray away from the Reanimator match for a minute, like it just beats Jund. It's very difficult for them to play through it. Your Naya mid-range decks, and occasionally against the fast decks, if you're on the play, you get a turn 5 Angel. Ends the game.
I've actually been a big fan of Acidic Slime just in most of the standard mid-range decks that are cropping up these days. It's really good against all of the control decks, especially in conjunction with Restoration Angel. Nefalio Drowner and Kessig Wolfrun are just two of the biggest cards to hit, and it gets them both. Plus, reasonable amount of versatility on other cards that some people might show up with. Random things like, Assemble the Legion, Staff of Nin.
It's Death Touch too. Like it trades. Like it's a 2-for-1 at worst, and that's something that not a lot of cards in the format can say that they are.
I think Clone is really the more exciting of the two, even though we're sitting here singing the praises of Acidic Slime. Evil Twin, just debuted pretty much. It's shot at the big time from the Mox Championship, and Clone is obviously not quite as twinny as Evil Twin, but the old standby, the original, as it were.
Yeah, old trusty here. I'm a huge fan of clone effects. I played Solar Flare for forever, and this is not Phantasmal Image, but in some scenarios he's actually better. One of the really neat interactions that I got to have today was having a Thragtusk in play that I was able to clone, that I was then able to Restoration Angel the clone, which then gave me another beast. This came into play as the Restoration Angel, blinked the Thragtusk again, gave me more life, gave me another beast, and it's just one card was able to do all of that, and you couldn't do that without clone.
Just completely swung around the game.
Yeah, it was an awesome introduction by my two best friends, Sheridan Michelson and John Dean. Like, they just told me, play this card, trust us, it's been awesome, and I played it in one game, and I was like, yep, I'm sold. Like, that's it.
I mean, really, the better that your opponent's cards are, the better Clone is, as silly as it sounds to just come out and say it. I remember, just like a year ago or so, the Grand Architect deck that just ran like 12 clone effects, relied completely on your opponents just playing good creatures, and that's like a very viable strategy when the creatures were like Titans, like Clone Frost Titan was just a very powerful thing to do. Clone Thragtusk, Clone Restoration Angel, these are equally powerful things.
And it also stops them from just like stone killing you with their Angel Serenity. A lot of those Reanimator decks, they try to play the long game, and they will try to cast their Angel to hit your guys. Well, all of a sudden you're cloning it, getting back your Angel Serenity. Now you establish a loop with clone and your Angel, and it's something very difficult for them to play out of.
Yeah, makes total sense. Beyond that, we're going to move over to your sideboard, which has a couple of spicy numbers in it.
We got a few.
I know you've added some Supreme Verdicts, which is not a card that the Prime Speaker Bant list can generally afford to run because of its reliance on these Mana Elves and Loxodon Smiter. So how have those been playing out for you?
This card's actually been really good. Our two worst matchups, I would say, are going to be Naya Humans. It's very difficult to play through Frontline Medic.
Yeah, Frontline Medic's incredible.
They just start giving all their guys indestructibility. It's very hard to power through that. So this is kind of like our nod to that, and at the same time, the Peddler deck, which it might seem like it's the kind of deck that not a lot of people are going to play, but you get this, in other matchups, but it kind of has splash applications to that matchup because obviously you're all creatures, and whenever they start to do things like soul bonding their peddler with their Staticaster, you just can't win now. No, like it's a bad situation. So what we do is we'll play a mana guy, and say go, we'll play a land, they'll start to assemble their board, and we'll just wrath them. And now they have nothing, and we've got things like Serenity to kind of pick up the pieces.
Makes sense. Your Reanimator hate of choice, you opted not for Rest in Peace,
Nope.
not for Purify the Grave, for Memory's Journey.
The I Gotcha card all day.
What sold you on this one?
I played against Junk Reanimator 3 times today, and in every single scenario, this card was the reason that I won. And that's Kubi, actually, that gave me that little bit of sideboard tech. Number one, it's an instant, so you can keep doing things, and you can hinder their plan while you're continuously doing things. You lose a little bit of ground whenever you play Rest in Peace because your Angel of Serenity is so powerful.
That's fair.
You want to be able to return your Prime Speakers, your Thrag Tusks, grind them out. This card just makes them play like entirely differently. You get to remove 3 cards from their graveyard, okay, but now it's in your graveyard. So they can't just go off again. They have to start playing fair games against you. So drawing 1 is usually enough to just end the game. Drawing a second one just pretty much seals up the fact that they have to play fair Magic with you, and you're obviously not a fair deck. So
okay, that makes total sense. Tristani, sort of additional Rock's Faithmender. I know I've seen like a mix of those showing up in various decks. How did the Tristanis play out for you as opposed to the Faithmender?
Well, she has a really big tushy, so she's able to just block everything. And when you play her on turn 3, those decks that are relying on things like casting their Flinthoof Boar and giving it haste, or just swinging in with 2/2s and 3/3s, they can't push through her without either 2 for 1ing themselves, and if you untap with her and you've got a creature in your hand, like they might as well just extend their hand. Like there's really very few amounts of things outside of like Aristocrat or Thundermaw Hellkite that can push through this, and you just punish them for keeping those like cute aggro draws that don't really have any sustenance behind them. So all of a sudden this comes down, and then Thragtusk comes down. You start blinking your Thragtusk, and it just gets silly. The game is just, for all intents and purposes, almost over.
Sure. She can just KO them, completely reverse them.
And then you start proliferating. Oh, it's adorable.
The other card in your sideboard's noteworthy. Selesnya Charm, card that used to see a lot of play in the standard format, has kind of disappeared again, like so many of the other cards we've seen. Brad's been really championing this deck,
I agree with
card, I should say, over in the booth. And it's been playing out for you today?
Yeah, 100% agree with Brad. It has so many applications. I was able to get my opponent earlier because he just sent in with his mana guy, and I was just like, I'll make a 2/2 block it. He was mana screwed probably the whole game at that point, just from one small thing. Against Reanimator, you can remove their angels from the game.
Obviously, very key.
Now they're losing that application. Against Jund, it's actually very good. You can start to remove their Olivias when they start pinging your guys. It gives you now 2 Olivia if you can't just clone her. And then in one of my features, I attacked and I just had double Selesnya Charm against Junk, and I just +4/+4 to a couple guys and gave him trample and killed them. Like,
the worst case scenario, it's pretty easy to turn into a shock of some kind.
It just does everything. It does it well. It doesn't do anything insanely great, but what it does well for us.
Well, before I close this out here, let's give one more shout out to your spiciest of main deck bullets, the Collective Blessing. How many people died to Collective Blessing?
I call it the Kamehameha Wave, a la Goku. There are so many games where they're just like, oh, we're at parity, like, you don't have a better board than me, and you're just like, suck please, and you're just like, Collective Blessing, attack you, and not only are they dead, but they're demoralized. So when you do it game 1, they completely lose all will to play game 2, and you actually have it live, Glenn, until you have creatures in play, a Collective Blessing, and then you play a Prime Speaker. Because you're just like, oh, I'll just draw out my deck, thanks. And
I really like it just in breaking open Thragtusk mirrors, because it puts a Thragtusk at a perfect size to attack through another Thragtusk.
I wouldn't say like it's the heart and soul of the deck, but it's the card that like you're like, man, I don't think I can win, and then it just knows. It's like, Mark, I'm there for you, and you just draw. You're like, yay, I'm playing Kitty Magic.
Well, a subject of fortuitous timing and a little bit of power. So
tons.
Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Great take on the deck.
Thank you.